You know, there's a difference in country and western. Y'all know that? Yeah. Then we've got country western that they used to do a long time ago, and they're kind of coming back to that. But yeah. And so western is more like Sons of the Pioneer, and Marty Robbins did all that kind of stuff. And I love that style of music. I think it's gorgeous. I love the instrumentation of it. And I had the opportunity to listen to a man who was one of our best friends, and he lived out in West Texas. His name was John Gaither. No kin to Bill Gaither or any of the Gaithers or anything like that. But he was a cowboy of cowboys. And he loved Jesus. When you came in contact with John Gaither, you knew that he loved Jesus because he loved everybody. He just dripped with Jesus. And people loved him. So he got to reading the Bible and reading some stories in the Bible and started writing songs and picking his guitar and singing around a little bit. And he would also day works for some of the biggest ranches in Texas. When he was 76 years old, he wasn't just handing the syringe to the guys to vaccinate or handing a branding iron. He was there helping flank the calves. He was a go-getter. So he had a great witness around with people. If they knew John believed this way, it was a pretty good way to believe. If they didn't believe it, they still respected it because John stood for what he believed. So he started reading these stories and everything and kind of wrote a song that was almost like one of the stories in the Bible. And the one that he liked best was the woman at the well. It was when Jesus told his disciples, he said, we must go through Samaria. But you know what? The Jewish people at that time wouldn't go through Samaria. Y'all realize that? They didn't go. It was like if you were at Walmart and you had an arch enemy on aisle 1, you would go plumb back to the deli so that you didn't have to come in contact with that arch enemy. As they say in Oklahoma, they went plumb around and avoided the issue. But he told the disciples, he said, we must go through Samaria. And I could just see them looking at him like, what are we doing that for? But he had a great purpose because he said, I do nothing but what the Father tells me to do. So God the Father must have told Jesus to go through Samaria because there was a purpose in his trip. There he got there about noon. There was a woman getting water. Well, they say that she's probably a prostitute because all the other women came there at an earlier time when it was nice and cool. But she was there at noon. He struck up a conversation with her. And he revealed himself to her as the Messiah, the first person that was revealed to in the book of John. Jesus revealed himself to that woman. Not Joyce Myers, not Beth Moore, not even the pastor's wife. A person that you probably, or I probably wouldn't spend a moment with. But Jesus and God were in fellowship, and there she was. Designated to spread the word in that town. He said, go and get your husband and bring him to the well. She says, I don't have a husband. He says, you're right. The man you're living with now is not your husband. You had several husbands. But don't you know that when she went back into the town and said, come here a man who's told all about me. Every man is going to come down there to see if their name is being mentioned. And every woman's going to traipse right behind them and go to see if their husband's name is being mentioned. So everybody comes down and meets at the well, and there Jesus imparts himself. And he told her, and I'm sure he told them, you can drink of this water and you will thirst again. But if you drink of me, the living water, you will never thirst again. Now, John Gaither was a cowboy, and I love windmills. Windmills fascinate me. And I asked myself the question the other day. I've been all over in the last week and a half. I drove up to Denver from Oklahoma. I flew back down to south of Fort Worth, did a service there, flew to Iowa, flew back to Denver, went to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, went back to Denver, and came here. There was something else I did, but I can't remember. now I'm going to go to Cannon Beach tomorrow. And everywhere I go, I see windmills. And I want to get out and take a picture, especially when there are animals. There's cattle around it drinking from that. But I ask myself, why do I love it so much? And I think it's the spiritual aspect of a windmill. It's got a huge, everybody know what a windmill is? It's got a huge wheel. And it catches wind. Boy, it'd be flying today, wouldn't it? And the farmers and the ranchers knew its principle way before these big dogs knew these big old airplane things, you know, that's turning around on the horizon nowadays. They knew that it would generate. And as it catches that wind, I think of me and you as Christians and the Holy Spirit blowing us in the wind. And if we are not in that stage where you can stop the windmill from turning and it won't generate any energy, or you can let it fly. But if we're in that stage in our life where we're not listening to God and we're not going to do what God, we're just kind of sold up. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And we're not going to be moved by anybody, especially the Holy Spirit, and we're just froze up, then we're not going to produce anything, are we? But if that wind is blowing, the Holy Spirit's blowing, and is turning that wheel, then it causes a pump to pump from down, way down below the ground where that water is, and it causes the water to come up and go into a tank, and it refreshes whomever, whatever, wants to come by and get a cool, nice drink of water. And that's us. As we are ready for God to move in our life and we're generating love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, self-control, then we are a refreshing drink to other people who come in contact with us. But you know what happens when that tank sits there for a while? What tends to develop in that tank? A lot of scum, isn't it? That's us. If we get stale and stagnant, we get in unforgiveness and bitterness in our life, we are stale. We stink. Nobody wants to be around us anymore because we're judgmental, we're bitter, we're angry. That's the kind of life that John Gaither led. It was always rivers of living water flowing through him because he said, Jesus, flow through me, love through me, and I want to be your instrument.